darker, deeper, more emotional, heavier. It's leading you towards the tone of Lord of the Rings. It's sort of the film that bridges the two trilogies together. It connects the two. And so it's, for me, as a huge Lord of the Rings fan, I love that about this film, is it sort of feels more in keeping with the Lord of the Rings tone and feel, which is accurate to Tolkien's writing, because essentially this last moment of the book, the last bits of The Hobbit, are what set up Middle-earth for the Lord of the Rings trilogy and the state of Middle-earth when we enter into the Fellowship of the Rings.
I don't think it does. I think Pete's trying to compare this. You can't really compare it. It's not, I mean, I think he's responding to the material, and one of the things that's fantastic about Pete is that he understands each of the characters, but not only that, he understands the importance that an audience feels associated and connected to each of those characters continuously through that. So although you have this phenomenal and giant battle of five armies, you're constantly brought back to one of the characters that you've been on this huge journey with, and that is, and they're all going through that experience in their own way, they're on their own emotional path. So that way, you feel you can relate to it, but you can't really compare this to, Helm's Deep, or
right, yeah.
It's just not. It's not something that he ever says, oh, it's bigger or better. It's just he's responding to what Tolkien's given and stuff.
I remember the very first scene I shot on set it's in the second movie. It's the scene where I've got the dwarves and I have this incredible confrontation with Thorin Oakenshield, and it was, I was sitting up on that throne and had lots of ideas about the character, but it was really playing the character for the first time, speaking those words, looking into the eyes of Thorin Oakenshield, and that I started to understand the character and have a little window into what Middle-earth is all about, the magic of the place. Because we were there, we were actually inside of this, the imagination of Peter Jackson, the imagination of Tolkien, and this kind of thing that we all created together.
For me, the most mind-blowing moment, I think, was walking onto a soundstage and having Lake Town appear before me. The whole soundstage was flooded with about 2 feet of water. You had to be careful you stepped so you didn't fall into the lake. It was snowing. There were, villagers wandering around. There were fishermen. It was a world. You stepped into a world. You stepped into Middle-earth. And it was just a trip to be inside a building and feel like you are floating on a lake. And it was the entire soundstage. So you could wander through Lake Town, and they'd built it from scratch. It was amazing.
I think when I first got off the plane in 1999, one of the first things I did was go to Weta. We all went to Weta, and Richard Taylor, I met Richard Taylor for the first time and walked around Weta and saw the phenomenal work that the artists, the creators of not only our swords and our bows and the armor were doing, but we walked into this warehouse and there was a warehouse with 3,000 Uruk-hai outfits, hanging. They were just hanging on racks. And I just looked at this warehouse full of these these suits, and I was like, wow, this is going to be a massive ride. And I hadn't really fathomed the size of it until I saw that, and it's all just kind of lived up to everything from there.